Happy Tuesday. My name is Chuck Danielson. Thanks everyone for having me. Thanks to Def Method for hosting us. This has been like the coolest meetup I've been to, and I'm super excited to come all the time. So thanks so much, everybody. Today's topic is package managers. In classic presentation, methodology, if you will, everything you're seeing, these slides, truthfully just like a crummy VirtualBox sandbox for you to spin up Vim and destroy and mess around with all your packages is included, so you don't have to do work before you go back to work tomorrow just because you want to try a new package manager. A little bit about what we're going to cover today. Given the size of the group, I strongly encourage everyone to just interject with questions. Like if I'm looking in your direction, don't raise your hand if you don't have to, or just cut me off. First, what is a package manager? Kind of a high-level discussion just to get the ball rolling, really. Then we're going to look at what actually comes with Vim. What are the native features we get with the text editor we all know and love? And then rip through a couple of open source solutions, some ones I'm sure you're all familiar with, some stuff that I've just recently discovered, and I'm sure I'll leave out somebody's favorite. So, what is a package manager? It's a thing that manages packages, right? Well, in this particular case, we can think, I just really want you to pull into your mind all the different package managers you use, right? We were just talking about Node, NPM, that's a package manager. In Rubyland, there's a bundler. Rust, I have Cargo. In each of these cases, I'm asking them to do certain things for me. And what, in terms of Vim, do you think your package manager should do? I'm reaching it pretty extensively for convenience, but I think it's good to just kind of scope the problem to understand that there are a lot of different ways you could kind of slice this apple, if you will. And we're going to start with what comes out of the box in Vim. We say here Vim 8 because these are all features new to Vim 8, two in particular, that we're going to find leveraged regularly by old package managers and new. The first is the actual packages. So the link to all documentation, again, is in the GitHub repo, so you can see exactly specific to packages. But one definition I want to point out here is in the Vim world, a package is a collection of one or more plugins. So when I use my typical package manager today, I target individual plugins, and in my mind, those were synonymous with plugins, package, plugin, but we'll see where this definition comes into play. And then there's the concept of jobs. If I'm getting stuff off the internet, I'm doing all this stuff. Synchronous blocking tasks are always sad. Jobs allow me to queue up a couple of things and let them all process sockets and pipes, send stuff over to Vim, let me know when I'm done. These are two things that were added in Vim 8 that are making everyone's lives better. So here, this is just vanilla Vim, not even the newest one. Again, this is off that. This is the version of Vim you'll get on the VirtualBox. And we see a little bit of extra info on the bottom, the runtime path. If you're on your Vim where you want to play around, you can call set RTP. I say it like that because of a question mark. But the runtime path, think of it as just like your interactive shell path. Right? When I start typing commands, what I type in particular is parsed and a command is sent. When we load our Vim plugins, when I want to add functionality or key bindings, the runtime path is modified and things are added in. So we see that blob of text there. I don't expect you to be able to parse it super quickly, but there's nothing important there, which is what's nice to know, right? Nice to see there's a .vimdir, there you have our add-ons, XYZ. And next, we're going to take that base version of Vim and actually start using the package features. So the first command, I'm going to make dir with a -p. We know the .vim, that's something that's on our machine. And then we have this first directory, pack. This is for Vim. So Vim looks for the pack directory. You can maybe change this with a global setting. I don't know. You can do it in other tools for sure. But then there's this, which is for you. Again, your package name here. This is where you would define it. Again, a package is a collection of plugins. So in this particular case, we're going to add a couple of plugins to my package name. Here's that directory created, and now I've gone ahead and kind of done the next step rather than a couple of copy pastes and git clones. Let's just follow along here, right? So we have my your package name directory, and then we have these two subdirectories. Again, these are important to Vim. So if you will, Vim cares about pack. Your package name is a glob, whatever you want to call it. And afterwards, it's going to look for opt and start. opt or optional plugins, meaning they're not going to be loaded every time, and a start every time your Vim loads up, that's going to be loaded. Underneath here, we actually have some Vim plugins, right? 2 from T-Pope, we have Vim NYs. For this presentation, that's going to be my optional plugin, so you'll see me fail to get an automatic end. If you're not familiar with this, that's all it does, is throws an end on a visual cue. And that's one of my favorite plugins, as is Vim Surround. And this is something, yes, clearly I want every time. That's going to be pulled into my Vim. Here's just a little GIF rather than you watching me misspell, but let's watch it all go down. I'll check my runtime path here. If you look quickly, you will see Vim Surround, the top line, and if you look closer, you won't see endwise. So if I load my thing here, obviously my double quotes should be able to change to single quotes. If you're not familiar with Vim Surround, that's what that does. And now let's see if my optional plugin is loaded. No. I get nothing. Sad panda. Quit with an exclamation, coming back. This is the actual command to load an optional plugin, packadd. So it's an actual command. Here I'm modifying it in my vimrc, meaning now if I load here, the packadd execute, packadd executed. I see Vim NYs, second line there. My linter's still going to yell at me, obviously, because I didn't get rid of those double quotes. But wow, I am completed. So Vim gives me this functionality out of the box. Now I'm manually creating a directory. I'm manually putting some things in certain directories. I have a level of granular controls for if I want to optionally load a file. I can detect a file path. I can put a command in there, do something if I want. A popular thing that I've seen people do with this is just manage this as git submodules, right? In my dot files, I can do that. I can git clone all the ones I want. Gives me a little more granular control of pulling in updates to Vim plugins. I've never had a bad time running plug update where it like breaks my world, but the audio pick up the knock on wood, right? Someday it might happen. So this kind of gives you that functionality, but just very raw. Pathogen used to do this. By that, if you're not familiar with Vim Pathogen, as you navigate through, I've never used Vim Pathogen, but as I navigate through plugins, often the first thing you see is how to set up with Pathogen, how to set up with Pathogen, how to set up with Pathogen. Pathogen's job is strictly to manage the runtime path. So you still download and clone everything you want. It really functions almost exactly the same way. In fact, this has been retrofitted to match up. So if you are on Vim 8 and then let's say roll back to Vim 7 somehow and pull Pathogen in, your Vim 8 configured plugins will load. Pathogen will by default, without passing in a directory, look for those. So if you're on an older system and planning on update it sometime soon, not a bad plan. But let's talk about the t-shirt you wear to every family outing, right? When I started doing the talk, I thought to myself, I'm going to be going through a lot of stuff in the vimrc, loading through plugins. That's where I access and pull my plugins now with, I use a tool called Vim Plug regularly. We're going to get to it very quickly. The kind of first generation of that, if you will, was called Vundle. Vundle as in Vim Bundle, Bundler, is actually pointed at as one of the kind of inspirations behind this project itself. And let's take a look at the vimrc here, because given what we've discussed in the first plugin, kind of Vim 8 land, we can get a feel for what we need. Say for lines 1 and 2, set no compatible file type off. Let's put that in the convenience bucket. Right? A plugin can do this for me. A plugin can handle all that. In this particular case, this is mandatory. I need to write these 2 lines. Not a big deal. We all love Vim. Words are great. But we see now what is happening, right? The runtime path is modified. I call in. I pull in that bundle.vim file, which gives me access to the bundle begin function. I explicitly call all my plugins. I have a couple of controls here. You can get repos on and off GitHub. I can pull and clone down my own local plugins and run them. And I can even kind of set up some sort of nested directory to say, I know, Chuck, don't look in the regular folders where you would for this Vim plugin. Go down like 3 levels. And then I also add the file type plugin indent on. I get a couple of functions to do and manage this lifecycle. That's Vundle. Very straightforward. I have a couple things I want in. I want to pull them in. I don't want to have to make any of my own directories, etc. which then kind of pushed out this world of a Vim plug. If I had to raise a hand here, I would think this is probably in the lead just from, this is my community of people from Vim. I hear Vim plug, okay. We got some, all right. And I got to give a shout out to FZF. That's been a fun change for me. I talked to plugins that I've liked the most this year. Moving from just regular Control P to FZF has been, oh yeah. Same developer. And now let's take a look at really that same vimrc. So when I want to talk convenience bucket, there's less lines, right? Some of those things that I had to add before that are always getting turned on, Vim plug handles that for me. I don't have to write the letters IN after a plug. Sure. That's a second to the table gets the better pick kind of thing, if you ask me. So on the surface, it does a lot the same. Now on the endwise line, we have something really cool, right? For Ruby. In here, I actually get a lot more granular controls in terms of what's going to be loaded and when. Let's take a little bit look into some of this a little more formally. First, I want to talk about the parallelization. This was a feature of VimPlug, I believe, prior to jobs. It's implemented in Python and Ruby in the code base, but essentially allows you to do, and what we have a GIF, I borrowed a GIF from their repo that shows some of this in action in case any of you, this is a pain point for you, but this parallelizes all those tasks. If anyone is looking to add this functionality, by the way, some kind of, if you do a bunch of stuff all at the same time, many of these plugins leverage one called Async Vim, which is an API that exposes the async interface underneath the Vim. So it's kind of like a nice clean Vim script way to get a lot of that stuff done. The lazy loading. Now this can be either on commands. In other words, like commands aren't actually loaded until you need them. So rather than me bring the whole ship to the team, I get my window, and then as I need the next pieces, they're up and ready for me to go. And it'll completely ignore, as I want it to, certain plugins based on a file type. Easy, fun way to check with RTP, right? So let me check my runtime path, let me load. This way you don't have to change Vim around every time or whatever I was doing. As far as the control level here, when I talked about Vim plug updates, never breaking anything, really if I want to, I can do that here. Right? I can add hooks for new things coming in. I can version lock in. I can point specifically just to my file system. Anything I want to do to kind of control my Vim environment from Vim plug. Here's that GIF showing. I could have picked 40 updates, but I did not. And as you can see, 4 seconds for git clone, not bad. I think it's 16 threads this thing runs on, so pretty good time. So those are like, from my perspective, I guess when we first discussed this talk, I was like, oh, I'll talk about those. I hope there's more. The research began, and it was a lot of fun. So if you're familiar with Drew Neal, who has a site called vimcast.org and a book, that's where I learned about this, Minpack. He talks a little bit about the package managers and then points out this as kind of a more minimalist approach. This really fully leverages, think of it just as kind of one simple layer on top of what we looked at earlier on, which was just the Vim 8 native support. We see the pack add command. So again, I have to tell this in this particular case, like, hey, I want you to load this optional. And if we look up top in the make dir, that makes sense, right? There's pack, opt. Those are the two directories that Vim cares about. The one that we care about, minpack, lets it know that when you call pack add the optional minpack one. Minpack and knit. In terms of lightweight, you'll notice that at the bottom I've actually declared two commands, pack update and pack clean, which is how I use Vim plug now, right? I'll call plug update, plug clean, whatever. There are no commands actually added to your runtime path from minpack. You can explicitly create your own, but you're just calling functions that exist in the back end. And I have some controls here again for things like making this an optional plugin. When you run this command, rather than getting my own gutter window, everything is just ran in the background on Vim. You'll get messages to the console. By messages, we can look at that too if no one's familiar, but If I actually just echo to Vim, it'll let me know I got an echoed command. But if I echo and say save the message, Vim will store that, so I can go ahead and look at what has happened in the messages that Vim has sent me. So, yeah. Well, yeah, so it's kind of a quick intro here to Minpack. If anyone's really interested in diving in, I really recommend the Drew Neal cast. On it's short, it's like 4 minutes. But again, the kind of full feature set is covered here. This was the first of the package managers that kind of stood out to me as very different. The second one is one called Vault. Completely new to me, and when you go to a Vim plugin, I'm looking for that green, you know, no one else, the blue line. Catch anyone strange? I thought it was, you know, first Vim tool I've used that's not written in Vim script.
And that little black part right there.
Erlang. No, I don't even know what that is.
Oh yeah, for the README.
So what is Vault? Vault is a CLI for Vim packages. So this is actually gives me a user interface to pull things down. Rather than any configuration being done in your vimrc, it's completely independent. So I have a plug conf that will allow me to point to, you know, essentially that same logic we use in loading via vimrc, but just as a top level configuration object. Now there's hook functions I can pass in here to get a file type. There's dependencies, so I can say like, oh yeah, when I'm actually pulling in that thing, I need 6 more things all the time, right? Let's get those 6 then. It also provides a concept of profiles. So there's Vim on the machine, and I like the abstraction in a way where we have Vim and then we have this separate piece of the file system where all my plugins are supposed to live. There's a loading hook in there, so why can't I control that with some level of granularity? Truthfully, on this one here, I just wanted to show a little bit because I thought this was kind of unique. Now I realize I might not have the commands. There we go. So if I look at my Vault profile list, I have 2. I have a default and a Vimmer. On my default, I have Vim surround. Yep. And then I could just go Vault profile set Vimmer. It's going to do all that. Don't think I have it here. Yep. Beach volleyball. Everyone knows that sound when someone's watching TV. So let's go get one then. Let's do Vault get tpope Vim surround. There we go. And I can switch back and forth between the two. Yeah.
Is there any way to know which profile you're using from inside Vim?
From inside Vim?
Short of like shelling out.
Short of shelling out, I don't know. But I'm sure you could do that. Yeah.
You can probably run it with bang, just within Vim.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Might be useful for some plugin which shows you in the status bar which profile you're using.
Yeah. Well, that's it. You know, I love this for that reason. I made a joke earlier. Hey, if there's 5 Vimmers and we all got to share a machine, but it's 2019. We don't have to do that anymore. But fetching and handling it all from the command line, especially in a world where like you're splitting windows and heading over to tmux, I like it. Makes sense to me. Certainly a completely different approach to the problem, and I thought worth mentioning for that reason. And then of course I missed some. I wanted to open up the floor if anyone has some. Dein.vim was what I wanted to mention. That comes up pretty often. You might be using. It's very similar to plug update. It's by the developer that also does Deoplete. He has a. I say that because I had to ask in the Glitter channel. And it was like, we're a dark powered, and I was like, I don't know if I'm ready for the Vim talk. I don't know what dark powered is. How am I going to learn it? But it was a metaphor for you know they say the light side is Vim and. You know, everything in Emacs is the darkness, but I want to live in the darkness in Vim. So, if anyone sees that same line, you know, it's tough to Google. But yeah, so that was kind of my talk. Well, that was my talk. But open the floor to questions. Anyone has anything they would like me to kind of dig into a little bit further here? I had a lot of fun looking through.
First of all,
oh, God, thanks, guys. Yeah, all right. Round of applause to y'all for listening. Yeah.
I got a question. So you said Volt does like a dependency management so like a plugin could depend on other plugins.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's really something for like plugin developers. Is that catching on? Do you know? Like what's the deal? Have you encountered any plugins where?
Personally, no.
Yeah.
No.
Because I know it kind of sucks if you're like writing your own plugin. You kind of have to write everything yourself or whatever happens to be in Vim. So it'd be kind of cool if you could like include FCF or something like that. You know?
Oh, for while you're running it?
When you're running it,
Yeah.
that would be cool.
And this is the only one that does that. Do you know?
As far as I was able to tell you,
Yeah.
just it's I mean, there's a whole nother layer of controls.
Well, it looked like you could do that with the default Vim 8. If I remember what you were doing in that first video, you could
yeah.
create your own pack and put in your own plugins.
Yeah, so you could, I mean, you could make your own directory, right? Again, all of it you can do, right? I could do FT plugin DIRs if I wanted to too, right? You could make your own directory and then call packadd to load the stuff in then. It's really like where and when and how.
Like whether you want to redo all that folder management manually or you still use vimplug?
That's what I've been using, yeah. I don't anticipate switching like super quick. I'm interested in the person, and I mean, we should all kind of chime in here. I don't know about you guys, but I'm interested in the native support. But again, what I found is when you start digging into these, like they know what's coming, if you will. So in other words, like I was saying, vimplug pulled in the jobs. So now it's just doing it with Vim job support, right? So if you don't want to have Python, you don't want to have Ruby on your machine, that stuff will work. Prior to that, if I wanted to do it, I wanted to take all my Git clones. It could run with, I don't even know if it could run with VimScript. Mine would always just run with Ruby. So I'm interested in that part of it. The idea of the Git submodules too, like leaving it all in your dot files, I find we do that as well, right? We all do that. The only thing I really like, not the only, one of the things I really like is just being able to go, down here and, all right, that's my day. I don't want to use that thing today. Like turn one off. I think that's what makes, to me, this really interesting. It's because this is like one of the ones that came up for me when looking for a package manager was Janus. So Janus is a collection of pre-configured packages. I like to think we all had the same things thrown at us when we first started learning Vim. I'm much newer, I would imagine, than some of you. But start vanilla, right? Get in there. Vim tutor. Does this thing have it? It does. Go in here, learn, and kind of add piece by piece. So in a way, you're kind of set up for a journey that begins with the granularity. Like you're going to pull something in, pull something out, pull something in, maybe pull two things in. And now we hit a phase where, like for me, right, I go in, I'm going to pull in Vim surround immediately. I don't even know what else. I'll turn the syntax on. We could look at my VimRC if we want to, but I think maybe down the road I could see that, like when I find myself tied into some things a little more, but I really like the flexibility. And I've been really impressed with the progress in async tab completion and language servers talking to Vim. So I see myself in a little bit of change coming my way in the next couple years. So whatever leaves me the most flexibility is probably what I'll stay with until startup time drives me bananas. Sweet.
That was great, man.
Anyone use any fun stuff that I didn't cover?
I actually learned why some of my leader commands were working because I didn't create commands. I was calling
Nice. Yeah, that part I wasn't too, like, I get it, and this is from Drew Neal. He points out the make your own commands kind of stuff. I have the personality of someone who could occasionally start this and then end up writing my own Vim plug, and then it's worse than Vim plug, and I'm like, what am I doing? Why did I just spend all that time? So, yeah. It's, more of that than you'd think. A lot of people like to build their own, and once this thing kind of came out, but you know, I mapped Vim to E on my machine, so we're all beasts of our own habit.
Oh yeah? You just type E and then Vim
Just
opens
E,
up?
yeah. I don't like it.
From any window? You don't have to be in. Oh, okay, from terminal.
Oh, from terminal, yeah. Oh no. I mean, this thing still makes me open the wrong piece of software 5 times a day, so I can't. Like, although maybe I'm the only person using Alfred.
Why'd you choose E?
Edit.
Edit?
Yeah.
E is exit for me in tmux. So if you did that, you'd close out of my tmux.
Uncontrolled D just destroys panes, and then sessions never leave me until I kill them.
Same.
Yeah. Which is amazing sometimes. You close it all down, you're like, oh please. That's a good day.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
So I had no idea until today that packages were different from plugins.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Blew my mind. Always learning something new. So do you think that packages are is there a place for them? Like I use Vim plug right now. Do they add anything on top of that? I was a little fuzzy on are they different or just kind of like a Vim native approach?
So, if you want them to be, right? Because yeah, I agree, and it's really what do you want to potentially do some optional loading now? If there's 13 plugins you always use for language A, and 13 plugins you always use for language B, you probably would save yourself a lot of time in the long run putting those into a package and being able to call upon that package when you want. Like, hey, I think, if I'm using TypeScript, I want, leaf garland TypeScript, I want, TS linter, I want all these things like that. I can see that being convenient. But I really find, like, personally, I found a lot of ways to skin the cat, and then let's just go here. Yeah, that would help. Being able to optionally load these, right? It's like, well, do you want to put this here, or do you want to put this somewhere else? How?
So with those optional loading, how well does it work when you want it to load for 2 different file types rather than just one?
It accepts an array. You can pass a few in. Vim plug provides a bunch of benchmark. I didn't do any benchmarking for this, and I hope I didn't let anyone down too hard there. They fight pretty hard. When I say that, I mean it looks good. Like most of the other one I mentioned before, Dane.vim, was just a hair behind Vim plug. But that's interesting too because they do everything as much as they can, which is Vim script. So leveraging a lot of native features.
Are you running that virtual machine right now?
Yeah, that's this.
Oh, I figured, yeah.
Yeah.
You already mentioned it. Well, how are you currently managing different session types, file types for different plug loading? What do you do?
So for Vim plug, I let that handle it for me. You can pass in. Is it on my slides? I think it's on the slides. You can.
60 gigs of memory?
That's not right.
That sounds crazy.
60 gigs, it says.
That's what it said. I think it's what it said.
Oh, that's file system. File system.
Oh, 4 Ruby, nice.
Yeah. So you can pass in.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. I didn't know you could do that.
Is there an exclude option?
I don't know.
Consult the data links.
Yeah. It's Let's see. Sticking to some docs. Look at my spreadsheets. There's 4. Probably hack it somehow, right? It's just a string, so we can lie to the machine. What's a regex that matches everything but? Yeah, maybe. almost want to find the dark powered Vim comment, but I'll save that for the thing. I'm so nervous.
So I wonder, why did you get an idea of why they wanted to use Vim if they wanted to use all the Emacs shortcuts?
No, I think it's like a mantra of, right? Like if I'm in Emacs, I only live in Emacs, and if I'm in Vim, I only want to live in Vim. Even though like a Vim, you might say, don't do that, right? You know. But we have the shell now, right? You can get NeoVim. You can go nuts. Or come on, just come to New York City Vim Meetup and put it in Tmux. That's what I would do. And you're really living.